Hello, this is Two Ladies Modest Adventures. I'm Jenny, and I am going to be reading Animal Farm by George Orwell, Chapter 8, Part 1. A few days later, when the terror caused by the executions had died down, some of the animals remembered, or thought they remembered, that the Sixth Commandment decree, no animal shall kill another animal. And no one cared to mention it. The hearing of the pigs or the dogs, it was felt that the killing which had taken place did not square with this. Clover asked Benjamin to read her the Sixth Commandment, and when Benjamin was usual, he said that he refused to meddle in such matters. She fetched Muriel. Muriel read the commandment to her. It ran, "No animal shall kill any other animal without cause." Somehow or other, the last two words had slipped out of the animal's memory, but they saw now that the commandment had not been violated, for clearly there was good reason for killing the traitors, which had leagued themselves with Snowball. Throughout the year, the animals worked even harder than they had ever in the previous year, to rebuild the windmill, with walls twice as thick as before, and to finish it up by the appointed date. Together with the regular work of the farm was a tremendous labor. There were times when it seemed to the animals that they worked longer hours and fed no better than they had done in Jones' day. On Sunday mornings, Squealer holding down a long strip of paper with his trotter, would read out to them lists of figures proving that the production of every class of food stuff had increased by 200%, 300%, or 500%. As the case might be, the animals saw no reason to disbelieve him, especially as they could no longer remember very clearly what conditions had been like before the rebellion. All the same, there were days when they felt that they would sooner have had less figures and more food. All orders now issued, though Squealer, or one of the other pigs, Napoleon himself, was not seen in public as often as once in a fortnight. When he appeared, he was attended not only by his retag of dogs, but by a black quarto, who marched in front of him and acted as a kind of trumpeter, letting out a loud cock-a-doodle-doo before Napoleon spoke. Even in the farmhouse, it was said, Napoleon inhabited separate arguments from the others. He took his meals alone, with two dogs to wait upon him, and always ate from the crown nearby dinner service, which had been in the glass cupboard in the drawing room. It was also announced that the gun could be fired every year on Napoleon's birthday as well as on the other two anniversaries. Napoleon was now never spoken of simply as Napoleon. He was always referred to in formal style, like as our leader, Commander Napoleon, and the pigs liked to invent for him such titles as Father of all animals, Terror of mankind, Protector of sheepfold, Duckling's friend, and the like. In his speeches, Squealers would talk with the tears rolling down his cheeks of Napoleon's wisdom, the goodness of his heart, and the deep love he bore to all animals everywhere, even and especially the unhappy animals who still live in ignorance on other farms. It had become usual to give Napoleon the credit for every successful achievement and every stroke of good fortune. You would often hear one hen remark to another guidance of our leader, Comrade Napoleon. I have laid 5 eggs in 6 days. Or the 2 cows enjoying a drink at the pool would exclaim, thanks to the leader of Comrade Napoleon, how excellent this water tastes. The general feeling on the farm was well expressed in a poem entitled Comrade Napoleon, which was composed by Minimus and which ran as follows. Friend of fatherless, fountain of happiness, lord of the swill bucket, oh, how my soul is on, far when I gaze at thy claim and commanding eye, like the sun in the sky, Comrade Napoleon. Thou art the giver of all that they creatures love, full belly twice a day, clean straw to roll upon. Every beast, great or small, sleeps at peace in his stall. Thou watchest over all, Comrade Napoleon. Had a stucking pig, ere he had grown as big, even as a point bottle or as rolling pin. He should have learned to be faithful and true to thee. Yes, his first squeak should be Comrade Napoleon. Napoleon approved of this poem and caused it to be inscribed on the wall of the big barn at the opposite end from the 7 Commandments. It was surmounted by a portrait of Napoleon in profile, executed by Squealer in white paint. Engaged in complicated negotiations with Frederick and Pigton, the pile of timber was still unsold. Of the two, Frederick was the more anxious to get hold of it, but he would not offer a reasonable price. At the same time, there were renewed rumors that Frederick and his men were plotting to attack Animal Farm and destroy the windmill. The building of which had a cross furious destroy had furious jealousy in him. Snowball was known to be still skulking on Pinchfield Farm in the middle of the summer. The animals were alarmed to hear that 3 hens had come forward and confessed that, inspired by Snowball, they had entered into a plot to murder Napoleon. They were executed immediately, and fresh precautions for Napoleon's safety were taken. 4 dogs guarded his bed at night, 1 at each corner. A young pig named Pink Eye was given the task of tasting all his foods before he ate, lest it should be poisoned. At about the same time, it was given out that Napoleon had arranged to sell the pile of timber to Mr. Pinkton. He was also going to enter into a regular agreement for the exchange of certain products between Animal Farm and Foxwood. The relations between Napoleon and Pinkton, though they were only conducted through Whymper, were now almost friendly. The animals, where was I? The animals distrusted Pinkton as a human being, but greetingly preferred him to Frederick, whom they had feared and hated. As the summer wore on and the windmill neared completion, and rumors of an impending treacherous attack grew stronger and stronger, Frederick, it was said, intended to bring against them 20 men and armed with guns, and he had already bribed the magistrates and police so that if he could once get hold of the title deeds of Animal Farm, they would ask no questions. Moreover, terrible stories were leaking out from Pinchfield about the cruelties that Frederick practiced upon his animals. He had flogged an old horse to death. He starved his cows. He had killed a dog by throwing it into the furnace. He amused himself in the evening by making cockfights with splinters of razor blade tied to their spurs. The animals' blood boiled with rage when they heard of these things being done to their comrades. And sometimes the Columber to be allowed to go out in a body and attack Pinchfield Farm, drive out the humans, and set the animals free. But Squealer concealed them to avoid rations and trust to Comrade Napoleon's strategy. Nevertheless, feeling against Frederick continued to run high. On Sunday mornings, Napoleon appeared in the barn and explained that he had never at any time contemplated selling the pile of timber to Frederick. He considered it beneath his dignity that said to have dealings with scoundrels of the description. The Pelagons, who were still sent out to spread tidings of rebellion, were forbidden to set foot anywhere on Foxwood, and were also ordered to drop their former slogan of death to humanity to favor the death to Frederick. In the late summer, yet another of Snowball's machines was laid bare. The wheat crop was full of weeds. It was discovered that on one of his nocturnal visits, Snowball had mixed weed seeds with the corn, and Gathered, who had been privy to the plot, had confessed as guilt to Squeal, had immediately committed suicide by swallowing deadly nightshade berries. The animals now also learned that Snowball had never, as many of them had believed, Hithro, to receive the Order of Animal Hero, First Class. This was merely a legend which had been spread some time after the Battle of the Cowshed by Snowball himself. So far from being decorated, he had been considered for showing cowardice in the battle. Once again, some of the animals heard this and was certain bewilderment. The Squealer was soon able to convince them that their memories had been at fault. In autumn, by a tremendous, exhausting effort for the harvest had to be gathered at almost the same time. The windmill was finished. The machinery had still to be installed, and Whymper was negotiating the purchase of it, but structure was completed in the teeth of every difficulty, in spite of experience, of primitive implements, of bad luck, of Snowball's lacquery. The work had been finished punctually. That very day, tired out but proud, the animals walked round and round their masterpiece, which appeared even more beautiful in their eyes than when it had been built the first time. Moreover, the walls were twice as thick as before. Nothing short of explosions would lay them low this time. And that when they thought of how they would lay them low and when they thought of how they had labored, what discouragements they had overcome, an enormous difference that would be made in their lives when sails were turning and the Demoness running, when they thought of all this, their tiredness forsook them, and they gambolled round and round the windmill, uttering cries of triumph. Napoleon himself, attended by his dogs and his cockatrill, came down to inspect the completed work. He personally congratulated the animals on their achievement and announced that the mill would be named Napoleon Mill. 2 days later, the animals were called together for a special meeting in the barn. They were struck dumb with surprise. Then Napoleon announced that he had sold the pile of timber to Frederick. Tomorrow Frederick's wagon would arrive and begin carting it away. Throughout the whole period of his friendship with Pinkerton, Napoleon had really been in secret agreement with Frederick. All relations with Frederick had been broken off. Insulting messages had been sent to Pinkerton. The pigeons had been told to avoid Pinchfield Farm and to alter oh, it's 21 minutes again.
That's okay.
Well,
let's get on to editing.
Like and subscribe so we can get to 1,000 subscribers so we can start beekeeping. And stay blessed, make the world a better place, one person or one moment at a time. Sorry that it was over 15 minutes again. I don't have my timer out. Sorry about that.